I don't usually talk about this night. Even now, after so many years, I can feel my chest tighten whenever I think about it. People say stories like these are exaggerations, old village tales, stretched and twisted to frighten children into staying indoors after dark. But I was there. I saw what happened with my own eyes. I heard what I wasn't supposed to hear, and I felt something touch me that no human hand could ever replicate. This isn't just a story, it's a memory carved into my bones, one I wish I could erase. It happened in a small village where my uncle lived, far from the noise of the cities. The roads were broken, the fields stretched endlessly, and the nights were darker than ink. That's where I learned that silence itself can be more terrifying than screams. I had gone to visit my uncle one summer. The days were hot, but the nights brought an unnatural chill, as if the land itself carried secrets too heavy to keep warm. Villagers whispered about a girl who had been possessed. They didn't say much when strangers were around, but I could see the fear in their eyes. Their voices dropped whenever her name was mentioned. One evening, my uncle finally told me the truth. His neighbor's daughter, barely 16, had changed. She screamed in voices that were not her own. She clawed at walls until her nails split and bled. She spoke of things she should never have known. Ancient chants, names of people long dead. At first, they thought it was madness. But when she began levitating in her sleep and muttering in languages none of the elders could recognize, the family had no choice but to call for an exorcist. I don't know why my uncle asked me to come along that night. Maybe he didn't want to face it alone. Maybe he thought I wouldn't believe him unless I saw it myself. Whatever his reason, I wish he hadn't. We arrived at the neighbor's house just as dusk was dying. The old clay walls seemed to lean inward, as though the house itself was suffocating under some invisible weight. Inside, the air reeked of sweat, incense, and something metallic, like rust or old blood. The girl lay tied to her bed with thick ropes, her wrists and ankles bound so tightly that the skin beneath had turned raw. Her eyes were rolled back, showing only the whites, and her lips were cracked from hours of screaming. But when she saw us, when her head snapped toward the door with an inhuman jerk, a smile spread across her face. It wasn't her smile. It was too wide, too knowing, and it froze me in place. The exorcist was already there. He was an old man, thin as a shadow, dressed in simple robes. His eyes were sharp, like he could see beyond flesh. He carried nothing but a small bag of ritual items, holy water, ash, and a worn wooden cross. His voice, when he spoke, was calm, yet carried a weight that filled the room. He began chanting in low tones, ancient words that made the air feel heavier with each syllable. The girl convulsed, thrashing against the ropes, her body bending in ways no body should. A guttural laugh spilled from her mouth, deep and mocking. "You can't drive me out," the voice growled, though it didn't sound like hers. "She is mine." The exorcist didn't flinch. He sprinkled holy water across the bed. The liquid hissed on her skin as if dropped on burning coal, and she screamed, so loud that I clapped my hands over my ears. But even through the noise, I swore I heard whispers, faint voices circling the room. As the ritual went on, the shadows in the corners began to move. I don't mean flicker, I mean move, stretching and curling along the walls like they were alive, reaching toward us. I blinked hard, thinking it was my imagination, but when I looked again, one of them had crept almost to my feet. The girl's laughter turned to sobbing, then to screaming, then to a low growl that rattled the floorboards. Her eyes, once rolled back, now fixed on me. Not the exorcist, not her parents, me. "Why are you here?" the voice inside her hissed. "This is not your fight." "You don't belong." I stumbled back, my legs shaking, but the exorcist's voice grew louder, drowning out her words. He forced the entity to speak its name. That's what he said needed to be done. If you know its name, you hold power over it. But the name that came out of her mouth didn't sound like any word I had ever heard. It was sharp and broken, layered with echoes that weren't possible from a human throat. The windows rattled. The ropes on her wrists smoked as though burning. Suddenly the lamp in the corner burst, throwing the room into near darkness. Only the faint glow of candles lit the scene, and in that dim light, I swear I saw a second face forming over hers. It wasn't flesh, but a distortion in the air, like heat waves, but shaped into eyes, a nose, a mouth. It hovered just above her skin, sneering. My stomach lurched. The exorcist shouted louder, pressing the cross against her forehead. She screamed again, so piercing that the glass in the windows cracked. Her parents clung to each other in the corner, weeping, and then the bed lifted, not just a few inches. It rose a full 2 feet into the air, shaking violently. Dust rained down from the ceiling as the ropes snapped one by one. The girl floated upward, her body stiff, her hair hanging downward like black snakes. The exorcist threw holy water at her chest, chanting faster, his voice raw. For a moment, the room felt like it might collapse under the weight of whatever was there. I don't know if what happened next was part of the ritual or something far worse. The girl dropped suddenly, slamming onto the bed with a sickening crack. Her body went still. The air grew cold, the kind of cold that bites into your bones. The candles flickered wildly, nearly dying. Then she sat up, slowly. Her head turned toward the exorcist, and in a voice calm and quiet, she said, "You are not strong enough." Her arms shot forward, and though she was several feet away, the exorcist was hurled backward, as if struck by a great force. He hit the wall with a thud, coughing blood. My uncle grabbed my arm, urging me toward the door, but I couldn't move. My feet were rooted to the ground. I watched as the girl, or whatever was inside her, began to rise again, her eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. The exorcist struggled to his feet, gripping his cross so tightly that his knuckles turned white. He staggered forward, and with the one final cry, pressed the cross to her chest. The room exploded with sound, screams, whispers, the crash of furniture. I felt a pressure in my skull, like my head was going to split open. Then came silence. When my vision cleared, I saw the girl lying motionless on the bed. The exorcist was slumped beside her, his chest barely rising. The parents rushed forward, sobbing with relief, touching their daughter's face. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The shadows on the walls hadn't gone. They clung there, darker than before, pulsing slowly as if alive. The girl's eyes fluttered open. For a heartbeat, they looked normal. But when she smiled, I knew the truth. It wasn't over. We buried the exorcist 2 days later. They said his heart gave out from the strain of the ritual. The girl recovered, or so they claimed. She no longer screamed or convulsed, and she returned to her chores as though nothing had happened. The villagers praised the exorcist for saving her, calling him a martyr, but I never went near her again. Because on the night of his funeral, as I passed her house, I heard it. A laugh. Low, guttural, echoing from within those clay walls. The same laugh I had heard that night. The laugh that didn't belong to any human throat. And as I hurried down that dark road, I realized something that has haunted me ever since. The exorcism hadn't worked. It hadn't driven the demon out. It had only given it a new disguise. I've carried this memory with me for years. Sometimes I dream of that night. The shadows creeping across the walls, the girl's glowing eyes, the voice whispering my name. And every time I wake, I can still hear faint laughter in the corners of my room. People say exorcisms save lives, but what they don't tell you is that sometimes they only shift the balance. They don't destroy the darkness. They only bury it deeper. And if you're unlucky enough to be there, to witness it, you never really leave. Because once it sees you, once it knows your face, it doesn't forget. And if you're unlucky enough to be there, to witness it, you never really leave. Because once it sees you, once it knows your face, it doesn't forget. The truth is, some demons are never cast out. They only wait, hidden behind human eyes, smiling at us when we least expect it. So tell me, after hearing this, would you dare stay alone tonight? If you felt the chill in this story, then don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Bloody Pumpkin for more terrifying tales that will keep you awake at night. Because here, every story bleeds, and every pumpkin hides a shadow.